Hello everyone, in this video we'll be going to create a REST API from very scratch. We'll be using Node, Express and MongoDB for that. So let's just quickly start with the project. What I'll do is I'll create a directory. I'll say mkdir, okay. I'll say mkdir, I'll call it REST_API. I'll move to this directory. I'll create a node project inside it. I'll say npm init. I want to answer yes to every question that it asks, so it will be automatically created for me. So I'll open up the project inside my code editor. So I'll be using VS Code for this. So let's just quickly do something. Let's create an index.js file. Now before starting with some code, let's install our dependencies. So we'll be requiring Express. We'll be needing Mongoose. Mongoose is a package which helps us to interact with our MongoDB database. So we'll be needing Express, Mongoose, and what? Anything else? Okay, this for now. So let it install. So we'll see that in package.json. Okay, let's install NodeMon as well as a developer dependency. Let's just quickly add one more script here for our dev server. We'll say NodeMon index.js. That will be fine. Let's open this terminal. Okay, let's now start with our code. We'll first require Express. We'll say const app, which will be equal to our Express app. Let's say port, which will be equal to process.env.port, or if we don't get a port from process.env.port, we'll be using the default 3000 port. We'll do app.listen. We'll listen to that particular port and then log a message saying server started at port our port. Let's run this. Let's see if we get this running. We'll be saying npm run dev. Let's wait for this. Okay, we have been started at particular port number 3000. Now what we have to do is, now we'll be using MongoDB. So to use MongoDB, I'll be using the cloud version of MongoDB. We'll be using MongoDB Atlas. So let's start from scratch. I'll say MongoDB Atlas. So go to MongoDB Atlas here. If you have already an account, then just log into MongoDB Atlas. If you don't have an account, just create one account at MongoDB Atlas and log into your account. I'll quickly log into my account. So I have logged into my account. So when you log into your account, what we have to do is we have to create a new project. I'll create a new project here. Name your project anything. I'll name it as REST_API and click next and just create project here. You don't have to do much here. Okay, now after this, when you reach this screen, we have to build a cluster. Click build on cluster and use the free tier. Click here and keep this as the default settings. Don't do anything here for now. Let's just click on create cluster. So our cluster will be creating. It will be taking some amount of time. I'll be pausing the video right here. As soon as I'll get this ready, so I'll play it again. Okay, it's taking time, so till then we'll write the code that we require. We'll require Mongoose from Mongoose. We'll be requiring Mongoose. That's fine. Okay. So we'll say connect to Mongodb Atlas. We have to connect to Mongodb Atlas here. So with Mongoose we can connect. We'll say mongoose.connect, and we have to pass the DB URL. For now we don't have a DB URL. So let's check if our Atlas setup has completed. It is still running. We have to wait for some more time. So okay, this has been done. So when you reach this window here, just click on connect, and you have to whitelist your IP address. So click on add your current IP address. This will automatically populate your current IP, public IP address. Or if you want to access this database from some other IP address, so you have to add it here manually. So I'll add my current IP address for now. So create a user, give it a username and a password. For simplicity, I'll just give it my name. So you can give it anything, or you can even auto generate your password, but you have to remember this, right? Because we have to use this later. So I'll click on create MongoDB user here, and I'll click on choose a connection method. Choose the second one, connect to your application, and you will see here a URL that is generated for you. So copy that URL. We just need that URL. Copy that URL, go back here, paste that URL here. Now here we have to make few changes. Replace your password, the password we just created. I wrote Vishal, so I'll just rename it to Vishal. And DB name. Okay, we did not create DB yet, right? So we have to create a database as well. So let's close this window. Go to collections. So add your own data, create a database name. So I'll add books DB, and for a collection just add books for now, and create. This will create a database called books DB for us. So replace that DB name with books DB, books DB. So mongoose.connect returns a promise. So what we have to do is we'll say dot then, and it takes a function, callback function. And as soon as we are connected to the database, let's log a message saying connected to MongoDB Atlas. Okay, we have to pass one more thing here. Write use new URL parser to 2. This is just the parsing technique that Mongo uses for this URLs. Just try that. Now let's run this again. Let's see if we get connected to the database. So what is started? See, we got a message connected to MongoDB Atlas. So we have connected to our remote database, the MongoDB database. Now if you see here, probably in a production environment, you won't want something like this to come up here in your code, because you have your database name, your name, and the password as well, right? This was the password and this was the username. You don't probably want this in your code. So what we'll do is we'll handle this using something called as environment variables. To set up environment variables, we'll use another package which is called .env. So I'll install with npm called .env. So let it install. So till then we'll configure it. So we'll require .env and call the config method on it. That's it. That's all you need to do. Now what we'll do is we'll create another file called .env, and we'll create a constant here. We'll say, for example, mongo_URL. This will be the URL to your database, this string, copy this string here and paste this here. Now to access that string here, what you have to do is you have to write process.env.mongo_URL. Let's write a comment here as well. Let's run this again. Okay, we connected to Mongodb Atlas. Perfect. Let's now also write a catch block in case something wrong happens. So to catch any errors, we'll write a catch block, and for now we'll just log this error. We'll say console log, and we'll say something wrong happened, and we'll just log the error object for now. That will be fine. Now before doing writing any code further, let's now set up a GitHub account for this project. What we'll do is we'll go to our GitHub account. If you don't have a GitHub account, please create one. What I'll do is I'll create a new repository. I'll go to the new repository. I'll create, let's name it anything. Let's call it books REST API for now. Let's keep it public, that's fine. Create on click, we'll get the steps to initialize the repository. What we'll do is we'll initialize a very new git repository type, git init. We'll set up a remote origin, paste this here, that's fine. Now before proceeding any further, let's create a new file. We'll call this .git ignore, and we'll write node_modules and .env. Basically git ignore files tells our git to not to publish node modules and .env to the remote git repository. That is what we want. We don't want our node modules to get published to our remote repository, and not even our .env file which has our username, password and other stuff. So let's save this file for now. Let's save this and let's commit the things. We'll write commit. Let's say it is setup. Okay, we have an error, untagged files. Okay, we did not add the files, we have to add it first. Let's add everything we have. Now we'll write git commit setup. It is committed. Now let's push it to the remote repository. What we'll do is git push origin master. For now I'll push it to the master branch because we have only one branch now. Oh, it takes some time to, okay, it is done. Let's check if we have all these changes here. Yes, we have everything here. If you can see, we have git ignore file, we have index.js, and we have package files. But what we don't have here is the node modules and the .env file which we mentioned here. Now our git ignore files prevented git to push those files to the remote repo, because you are going to share code with someone. You don't want to share your passwords or even your node modules. Now that we are done with everything, we are done with setup, and we have set up our GitHub account as well. Now we'll start creating APIs. We'll be creating REST APIs, post, get, put and delete APIs for our books collections. So we'll start by creating our schemas. Since we are using Mongodb database, so we'll start by creating the schemas. So to create schemas, what I'll do is I'll create a new folder. I'll name this models. In this model, create a new file. Let's name this books.js. Now we'll be requiring Mongoose. We'll say Mongoose Mongoose. We'll also require Express. We'll say require Express. Actually, we don't require Express here. Let's just remove this. We have to create a schema. So let's say we'll create here a book schema. Schema is basically just the skeleton of your book, what the structure of your book will be. So to create a schema, we'll say const say book schema. We'll say new, okay, sorry, we'll say new mongoose dot schema. Now what our book will consider of, a book can have a name, and name will be of type string. Let's say it is required, we want it to be true because we don't want it to be empty, we want it to be true. Let's say it has a min length of, a book has a min length of, for example, say 3 characters at least, and a max length of, say for example 50 characters will be fine. What else does a book will have? A book will have an author. For author, for time being, let's keep it empty because I want to create a separate schema for author. And a book will have a genre, for example. Genre, it will be of type string. It will be required, will be true. Let's say it has a min length of, say for example 3 and a max length of 20. Now that book schema is done, we'll create another schema. But before creating another schema, let's just do one more thing here. We'll do module.exports. We want to export this schema out of this file. We'll say module.exports equal to new mongoose.model, and we'll name our model. So since this is a books schema, we'll name this simply book model, and we'll write a schema name that will be book schema. Now schema is the skeleton of your collection or document, and model is similar to an interface that helps you connect to the database, perform operations with the database. So that is why we are exporting a model from here. This is the structure and this is the model, right? Let's create a similar file naming author.js. I could have probably done it here as well, but I wanted to show you that we can embed one schema into another. So we'll create a separate schema for authors. It will be almost similar. We'll be requiring Mongoose, and it will be author schema. Let's create author schema. It will be new mongoose.schema. What will an author have? Author will have a name which will be of type string. It will be required, of course. We'll say required true. Let's say it has a min length of at least 3 and a max length of, for example, 40. That will be fine. What else will author have? Author will have a name, and let's say it has a age. Age will be of type number, and it will have a min. For example, we want it to be 10 years of age and a max of, say for example, 100. That would be fine. We are done with author schema here. Similarly, we have to export the model. We'll say module.exports, which will be equal to new mongoose.model. We'll name our model. In that case, it will be author, and we will export our author schema. Now this is our author schema, and we want to use our author schema inside our books schema. So what we'll do is we'll require our author schema here. We'll say const author equal to, because we have exported that schema, we can import that here by requiring it. We'll say author, right? So to use this, I will say here author, but there's a catch here. What is the author here? Author is a model, because we are exporting a model from here. But what do we need here? We need a schema here, not a model. So what we'll do is, to access the schema of this author model, we will do author dot schema. Dot schema. Okay, that will give us the schema of that author. So we have exported book schema as well. Okay, now we are done with our schemas. We have created both books and the author schema. We'll move back to our index file. We'll write some more code. Let's say middlewares, write a comment. We'll write app.use. To use any of the middlewares, we use app.use. We'll write app.use express.json. So what is happening here is, we are basically telling our server that we'll be posting JSON data. So whatever request the server will be receiving, it can have a data in form of JSON objects. We'll write another thing called app.use. We'll say express.url encoded, and it will say extended to true. Basically, this will tell server that we are not just going to post strings. Our data can have arrays, objects, and array of objects as well. So that is what it is saying. Okay, we are done with middlewares here. Now we'll create some routes. Now to create routes, what I'll do is, I'll create a separate folder. I want to create my routes in a separate file. So I'll create a folder. I'll name it routes. Let's create a file inside routes folder. Let's name it maybe books.js. In this, we'll be requiring express, obviously, equal to require express. To create our routes, we'll be using express router. To use the express router, we'll write const, let's name it router. We'll use express dot router and call this method. Let's create a post route now. We'll start with creating a post route. We will create a book and we want to post it to our remote database. That is all we want to do. Let's say we are creating a post route. We'll say create a new book. To create a route, post route, we'll say router dot post, and let's say slash, be using request response. And whenever you post a data from anything, for example, from a client side application, you have a web app, you have a form there, and you will post some data. This is your server. When you click on submit and post some new data regarding your book, you will enter the name of book, the author name, age, whatever the things we created in our schemas. So when you create submit, the request will come here inside this route, and the data you posted, you can access that data in the request object. Yes. To create a book route here, let's first import our book model. We'll say book equal to require let's go to model and require our books model, right? So let's create a new book here. We'll write book, which will be equal to new book. Now let's check the schema of the book. We'll have a name, the author. Author itself is a model which has a author name, and we'll have a age. So to start with, let's say name. As I told you, we'll receive data in the request object. We'll see request dot body dot. For example, we had a form on a client side website. That field and the variable name is book name. Okay, we'll have name, book name. Now the left hand side will be same as the model name. Right hand side can be anything, any variable of your choice. Okay, we have name, we have an author. Author is an object. What properties does author have? Author has a name. Let's say we receive it in request.body.author name. Author has a age. We'll say request.body.author age. What is the next property do we have in books? Books has a genre. Let's say we'll receive this in request.body.genre. Now to post a book to the MongoDB database, Mongoose provides a method. What we have to do is have to write book, the book variable we created, and write save. So this will return as a promise. So we'll write dot, then if the promise was resolved, it will return as the book. And this is a callback function, of course. And what do we want to do with the book? We want to send it back to the client. We'll do response.send. We'll send the entire book object that the user just created. Or if something wrong happens, we'll write a catch block as well. We'll say error. If an error occurs, let's send some status code. Let's say response dot status, say 500. Do let me know if I send the wrong status code. Let's say response of status, and let's send a message as well. Let's say something, book was not created. Okay, book was not stored in database. That is fine. Okay, so let's format this first. Okay, we have created a new book. We have to export this route from here as well. We have not this route, actually the whole router object. We'll say module dot exports equal to router. That will be fine for us for now. So we're exporting this router object. Let's go back to our index file. Let's require that route here. Let's require that route. Let's require the route. Let's say books route, which will be equal to require. Okay, we'll go to routes and books. That'll be fine. To use this route now, what we'll do is we'll write app.use, and we'll write, for example, a URL. We have a base URL, which is our local host and some port number, and we'll write API, for example, API/books. Okay, API/books will be fine, and we'll assign it a books route. Now how can we access this route? When we go to, for example, localhost, for example, if we have a port of 3000, we go to localhost :3000/API/books, and this will go to the books route now. And inside of books route, on the slash, so basically we are going to localhost 3000/API/books and doing a post request that will come here. Okay, we have a small typo here. Let's correct this. Let's do it. Let's say name. Let's save everything. Let's now start our server. Again, to start our server, we'll write npm run dev, and our server is started, and we are connected to at port 3000, and we are connected to our Mongodb Atlas. Okay, that is great. Now to test our API. As for now, we don't have any interface. We don't have any client-side web application to post our data to check whether our server is receiving it correctly or whether it is storing our data, our book, into the database. So to test this API, we'll use Postman. If you don't have a Postman, go to Google and download the Postman desktop application. That will be fine. I already have Postman with me. So download the application, start the application, sign in, and you will see an interface something like this. So when you see an interface something like this, what we have to do, you have to do a post request. We created a post request, and what is our URL? Our URL is localhost 3000 http localhost at port 3000. As I told you, we have /API/books and then this method. Okay, we have /API/books. After that, we have to send some data. To send some data, come to the body, click on raw, and you will see a small drop down here. Choose JSON. We'll send our data in JSON format. To send data in JSON format, we'll write name. Now actually we need to write here book name. That is the variable we used here. Book name, author age, genre. It should be same. So we'll go here, we'll write book name. For example, say anything, The Wings of Fire. And then we have, what do we have? We have a author name, author age. We have a author name, author is Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, and we have a author age. Let's assume 58. And what else do we need to post? We do have to post the genre. Genre will be autobiography. That is it. This is the book object we need to send. Let's click on send now and see, we got the book back we created. We got an underscore ID. Underscore ID is automatically generated by Mongodb database. So we'll use this for further APIs when we want to retrieve a particular book based on this ID. Now we have name, The Wings of Fire. We have author, which is itself an object. It has an ID. Author has a unique ID. Author has a name and age and genre. That is fine. We have successfully created a book object. Now that we have successfully created, we have received a status of 200 OK, which means it was saved to the database. Now to check, let's check in our database. We'll go to Mongodb Atlas. Go to your collections. Remember we created the books database. And let's refresh here. When you refresh, okay, see, we got one record here. This is one document we just created, and if you see, we have Wings of Fire, author is an object, and we received everything. Now that we have stored the book in the database, let's see one more thing. Let's now remove this and keep it a single letter. When we define the schema, we said it should be a minimum of 3 letters. Now if I post single letter, what do I receive? Click on send. I receive book was not stored in the DB, which is the message I wrote here. Book was not stored in DB. But this is actually not the appropriate message. This was fault on behalf of us because we did not handle the validations. When we receive the data, we have to validate the things. So we'll do that now. We'll write some validations. We'll check whether the data we are receiving is properly validated, and we'll send the status codes accordingly and the appropriate messages. For example, in this case we might send a message like it is a bad request, and we'll send a message like book name should have at least of 3 minimum characters, like so. Let's first push everything we have to the Git. So let's go here and head. If you are not using VS Code, you can just use the command line as well. Let's add a message. Let's say added a post API. Let's say book. That's fine. Changes are committed. Let's just push it to the master branch. That'll be fine. If we go to our Git to check if we have received the things, let's go to repositories and check. Okay, where's that? Okay, we have got the things. That is fine. We'll now continue with adding validations. Let's go to our code. To validate things, we'll be using a package called as yup. So let's just open up our browser and type npm yup. So this will open up the npm page for yup. You can see the downloads here. These are the weekly downloads. That's how you can identify a package, whether it's used by these many of people. For this project, we'll be using this package. There are other packages as well. For example, npm joy, I guess. So I've used joy before. This is also good, but for this tutorial we'll be using yup. So I'm using yup for the first time as well. So we'll be exploring yup. So these are almost equivalent packages. You can use both. So for this we'll stick to yup. So let's install yup first. We'll go to our project and we'll do npm install yup. This will install the dependencies for us and we'll be fine. So let it install. We'll start directly with the code. Let's go to models. What we'll do here is we have to authenticate the post request. So what we'll be doing is we'll be creating a function. Let's say const validate book. We'll be receiving the book object and we'll be validating that. So what we'll be receiving from body here is our request comes in request.body.bookname request body author and so on. So what we'll do here is we'll pass the whole request.body to our function that we'll just create and then validate it here. So to use yup, what I'll do is let's take yup first. We'll require yup, which is equal to require yup. Okay, so let's create a schema for yup. So to create a schema in yup, what we have to do is, okay, just go to the documentation. There are methods here, you can check out the documentation. I'll also follow the documentation only. So what we'll do is to create an object, we'll use this yup.object.shape. We'll say yup.object, okay, yup.object.shape, and this will take an object. So what we'll be receiving here is we'll be receiving, let's say book, okay, let's say book name, that will be equal to yup dot type string, and it will also be required, and it will be a min of 3 and a max of, what had we, okay, 50, max of 50. That's fine. What else do we have? Remember to keep the names, the key names, same as those names, because this is the things we are receiving. So it will be book name, author age, and genre. That will be validating. Book name, what was the author name and author age. So we'll write author name, that will be also yup dot of type string, that will also be required, and what is of type author, let's go to author and see, min and max is 3 and 40. Let's say is of min 3 and max of 40. What is next? Author age, I guess. Author age, that will be of type yup dot number, that will also be required, and that will be a minimum of 10 and maximum of 100. What was the last? Genre. And what are we passing from here? Okay, it's just genre. It is book name, author is, and genre. Genre will be dot string. It will also be required. And what are the validations for genre? It is min 3, max 4. It is a min of 3 and max of 20. Okay, after doing this, what we'll do is we'll do return schema dot validate it with the book we received, and then it will return a promise. And if our validations are correct, if we validated correctly, we'll receive the book back. Let's just return it. And in case we receive an error, we'll write a catch block. If our schema is not valid, we'll receive a catch block. And for now, just log the error. We'll see what the error object will return us. Let's just format it. Now we have to export this function as well. So right now we are doing something called as a default export, but we will just change it to a named export. So I'll show you what named export and default export look like. This is the default export. To make it a named export, we'll say exports dot book. It can be any name. That can be any name. So I'll name it book for now. And now I'll also export my function. So I'll say exports dot validate book, which will be equal to my function validate book. Now I have changed this to the named export, so I have to modify my imports as well. So I have imported it here, book. Now to import book as a named import, I just have to do this. That is all. Now I can also import validate book as well here. Now, as and when we post the request from our client side, from our Postman for now as well, so we want to validate it. Let's validate it. Now what we'll do is, we have imported the validate book. We'll do validate book and pass it request dot body, request dot body for now. Now let's try to run our server, npm run dev. Let's see if we can get started. Okay, our server is started. Okay, now what I'll do is, I'll go to my Postman. Okay, I got the error. Let me check the error. So if you are wondering why this error came, so what we'll do is, we are not here able to connect to the Mongodb database. So if you go to your Mongodb Atlas, sign into your project, you will see a network tab here, network access tab. So here are the list of IP addresses, the public IPs that can access this database. So what I did actually is, I currently shifted to another network. So I was on my Wi-Fi and I switched to mobile data. That changed my public IP address. That is why I was not able to connect to the Mongodb database, because that entry of IP address is not present here. So what I'll do is, I'll go to add IP address and I'll enter my public IP here, or I can enter a range of IP addresses, or else you can allow access from anywhere. So for now I'll go and allow access from anywhere, so that I don't face this issue ever again. So if you face this issue, you can do the same. So this will take some time. So till then I can go to here. Okay, let's see how much time it takes. Okay, this is done now. So we'll go back and check if we can now run the server. Let's see. Okay, we got connected to Mongodb Atlas. That's great. Okay, what we'll do now here is, now where are we? Okay, we need to test this first if you are getting an error. So I'll go to my Postman So we have this request already here. So I'll throw an error. So I'll just send the 2 letters for book name. I'll see if I can get the error. Book was not stored, but I want to see if I received the error here. See, okay, I got the validation error. This is from my yup package. If you go here, you see we have logged the error. So this is that log. So we got the name. It's a huge object which has its value, path, type, and so everything else. So what we are interested in here is in something called as a message or errors. So what I'll do for now here is I'll export the message from here. I'll return this message from this. What I'll do here is I'll go here, I'll say return, I'll return an object, I'll say message, and I'll say error dot message, because this is the message property on error object. So this will return my error message to here. So I need to receive that error message here. I'll say const message. Now I have to do something else as here is I want to make this function the asynchronous function, because what is happening here is the validate book will take some amount of time, because it's returning a promise, it's going to the database and it is checking things. It will take some amount of time, so we have to wait for it to return us the error message. So I'll use something called a async, and I'll write await. So now this will basically wait for the response. This is similar to the then catch block, but this is much easier to write, right? So we'll go with this. So we'll make this function asynchronous function and we'll await for the message. Now what we'll do here is we'll check if we have received a message. That means obviously we have an error here. We'll do response dot send, or else we'll send a status. We'll say status of 400, which is equivalent to a bad request, and we'll send the message back. And if not, if there is no message, we'll continue and we'll save the book. Let's see now if we can receive this message in the Postman. Save the things. Let's go back to Postman and we'll check again. We'll send the same request, and if you see is the message which says author age must be greater than or equal to 10. That is what we received. That is fine. Now if we do something like author age 1, let's undo this. Author age, remember author age should be it should be greater than 10 and less than 100. Let's see if we can get that message. Author age must be greater than or equal to 10. Great, we are getting the message here. So which means we are validating the data. Let's go back to our code now. Actually let's call it error, because we are receiving an object. We can say this is error, and if there is an error, we'll send error dot message. Let's check it one more time to see if this is working fine. So now we should receive only this. We should not receive an object. It is fine. Okay, we are getting the error. Author age must be greater than or equal to 10. Now you must wonder and say, this is sending the message author age must be greater or equal to 10. You might want to send a custom message. That can be a requirement, of course, because it is sending the same variable name. You might want to send something else. So that can be done. To check this, okay, author age. Okay, let's send a custom message for age. If we enter a age less than 10, what you have to do is just add a comma and add a message here. Let's simply say age must be greater than 10. Let's save this and let's now check. See, we got the message. Similarly, you can add a message for max, that age must be less than 100. Let's save and let's check if we are getting that. If we add 1000, let's say okay. Also let's check it once again. It's not sending the message. Let's see what is happening here. Let's save it again. Let's check if age must be less than 100. That's fine. Okay, we are getting the message here. So that is how you can add your custom messages. You can add commas and start adding your custom messages. So we'll stick with the default messages for now. That's fine for me. If you want to add your custom messages, you can go ahead. Now let's just add few more books to the database so that we can start with the get requests, so that we have few books to play around with. Let's add one more book now. Let's say the man who had no title. This is written by Robin Sharma. I don't know the age. Let's say 34. That's fine. It's a fiction, I guess. Let's add this. Okay, it is saying bad request. Let's check. I don't know, let's check once again if this works, because it is sending me bad request with no error. Okay, let's check what are the logs saying. So it is saying unhandled, promise rejection, cannot set headers after they are sent to client, promise rejection. Now what is happening here actually is, if I send the request, let's say I'll send this again. So I'm receiving nothing, no message, and I'm also receiving a bad request error. But if I go to my database here, if I just refresh this, I don't know, it is taking so long. My internet connection is not so good. Okay, let's wait for it to reload. Now if you can see, we have this object added here, but we received a bad request as well as no message. So let's delete this from here first. We'll delete this. Now if I go here, if I see what I'm returning from here is, I'm returning an object, and here I'm checking if there is an object. Of course there is an object everywhere. What I have to check here is if there is a message inside that object, and I'll return that message, because what it is doing is, if there is no message, it is sending an empty message as well as a bad request, and the book is adding to the database as well. That is what was happening. Let's check now if this is working properly. So I'll send the request again. Let's wait for it. Okay, this got added. We have the man who had no title, name, age and genre, and a status of 200. Okay, that's fine. Why we added this book to the database. So sometimes you need to take care of these things, because you can miss that easily. That's fine. Now let's add one more book so that we have at least of 3 books. I don't know what else to add. Let's add one more book of Robin Sharma, the monk who sold. That's fine. Let's add this. Okay, this got added. Let's check it in our database if this is getting added properly. We should have 3 books now. Let's wait for it. Okay, we have Wings of Fire, Man Who Had No Title, and the Monk Who Sold His Faraj. That's great. Okay, now we have validated the things and we have added 3 books to the database. Let's just quickly push everything to the Git. Let's say validated post API, and that's fine. Let's just push to the master. That's fine. Let's even check. I have a very bad habit to check this. Let's check. This is getting added. So if you want to see more of the documentation, this is available here. This has a lot of methods for your number types, your string types, your boolean types. See the object types, arrays, dates, boolean, number. These are all the methods that can be applied on number, data type, string data type, and some mixed. I also have to explore this, and you should explore this. And the other one I showed you, the joy one, you can explore that as well. Let's go to, what was the API? Books API. Okay, it is updated 37 seconds ago. That's fine. So we validated this. So let's now start with the get API, in which we will fetch all the books that are in the database. We will write a get API, get all books. Let's now write, we have a book here. Okay, we'll write book.get / we'll want the same route, and we'll say request response. That is the default thing. Okay, now to fetch all books, that is very simple with Mongoose. You just have to write book.find. This will return you all the books that are in the database, and then it will return a promise. If promise is resolved, we'll give a callback function, and we'll receive the books, and we'll send the books back. And in case we got some error, we'll write a catch block for error. Let's just format this first. To write a catch block, for now we'll send a response. Let's send a status of 500 for now, and we'll send, say, something went wrong. Okay, let's now test this. Let's test this if we can get all the books. Let's save this, start the server. Okay, we got an error. Let's see what's the error. Book.get is not a function. Okay, we wrote book.get. This should be route. It should be router, not the book. It should be router.get. Okay, let's now run it again. We are connected to the database. Okay, let's go to our Postman. Let's create another request. It should be get request. Let's copy the URL. It will be the same URL, and this is a get request. And if we send this, see, we got all of the books. We had 3 books in our database. We got these 3 books inside an array of objects. That's great. Okay, it was pretty easy, right? Now we'll do something like this. We want to get the book by ID. We want to get a book from particular ID. Let's write a route for that as well. We'll write router.get, and it will be / and we have to pass the ID in the URL, right? Now to pass the ID, and we also want to get that ID in the route, because we want to query our database on basis of that particular ID. So to write that, we'll write : book ID. Now this book ID will act as a variable, and whatever you pass in the URL after / that can be cached with this variable. I'll show you how. Don't worry about it. We'll write a request response, and to find the book with particular ID, we'll write book dot. We have a method on Mongoose which is find by ID, and you have to pass the ID. Now how do you access the ID? This is the ID that you want to pass. Now you can access this variable by writing request, the request you are sending, dot params. Params stands for the parameters you are sending inside a URL. dot book ID. That is it. And this will also give the same then block. If it is correct, we'll write book. Now we'll check here if we have a book. If we found the book, we'll do response dot send. We'll send the book back. And if we did not get the book, we'll send a response dot status of 404, which means not found, which you all should be aware of. Okay, we all know that 404. This is the only status code that all of us know, 404. And we'll send a message. Let's say book not found. That is fine. Let's also write a catch block. We'll write a catch block error. Let's say response dot send. I always forget to add the status. Response dot send 500, and we'll send a message. Something went wrong in something, or you can also send this error dot message. That will also be fine. Okay, we got an error here. Okay, this should be a catch block, and this will this will end like this. That is fine. Okay, let's now check this if we can get a book from particular ID. To get that, we need to have the ID. Let's go here. Let's copy this ID so that we can have this ID. Okay, how to edit this now? Let's copy this ID. Let's go back to Postman, and this will be the same request, and we'll add this ID here. Now let's press enter and see. Okay, we got this particular book. We searched with this ID and we got a particular book. Now if we, for example, change the ID so that we cannot find the book with particular ID, we want to see if we can get the message. See, we got book not found. That's correct. That's what we wanted. That is fine. Okay, so we have completed the get routes. Now we'll also write a put route if you want to modify a particular book, if you want to modify the name, genre, or anything based on the ID, obviously. So update book based on ID. So before writing the update route, let's just refactor this get the book by ID route. This is by using dot then catch block. This is also correct, but we'll also write using async await system so that you get to know that there is another method. So we'll keep this using dot then dot catch so that you can refer this. For this also we'll keep dot then catch. For this, let's change it to async await system. So to use async await system, you have to mark the function as an async function, and the query which returns a promise, you have to mark that as the await. So let me remove all this first. You will see how easy it is and how you can achieve this with lesser lines of code. So we will write await. Let's say this will be my book. I'll get the book. I'll write await find by book ID. It will say if I don't get a book, I'll send a response and I'll send book not found, or else I'll send the book. That is it. You don't have to do much. This is the async await system. Let's see if we can get the book with a particular ID. We have the API. Let's click. We got the man who had no title. Now let's see if we can get the error message. Book not found. Correct. That is great. Okay. Now let's continue updating our book. We'll use the async await with this as well. So to update book, we'll use router.put method because we want to update. Route will be same. We want to update using our book ID, and we'll mark this function as async. Wherever you want to use await, you have to mark the parent function as the async function, and you can use multiple awaits inside this function now. Okay, let's now continue. Request response. Let's say const updated book, which will be equal to, we'll be using await book dot, there's a method on Mongoose, we'll say find by ID and update. So you have to pass the ID, which obviously is request dot params dot book ID, that's fine. And then you have to pass the object you want to replace it with, so that the updated object, which you will be passing using request.body. Right now we want to update everything, that's fine. So we want to update the name, that will come with request.body dot, for example, book name. And then there is author, which is itself an object, if you remember the schema that we created. There's a name, there's an author, which itself is an object. Author has name and age, and then we have genre. We'll follow this scheme. Okay, we'll write author, that is itself an object, and author has a name, which we wanted to update to request.body dot author name. And there is age, we'll say request.body dot author age. Then there is genre, there will be request.body dot genre, that's fine. And then you can also pass a third param, which will be object, which will say new equal to true, which basically means whenever this find by ID and update is called, this will return you the new updated object. This updated book variable will get the updated object back. If you do not pass this new equal to true, by default it will remain false, and this will not return you the updated object. This will return you the original object, though it will be updating in database, but the API call will be returning the original object. So if you want your API to return the updated object to you, so pass this new equal to true. Now what we have to do, we'll check now if we have the updated book. If we don't have the updated book, we'll say response dot status of 404 and send a message of book not found, or else we'll send response dot send, we'll send the updated book. Let's check this if our update is working. Let's go here. I have created a put request here. What you have to do is select the put method from here. This is the URL, base URL, and the ID which we want to update. And inside the body section you have to pass the object with the book name, author age, and genre, which we are using here. Book name, author age, and genre. So this is the original object. We want to modify it. So let's first see. So this is our original object. Now we want to modify it. Let's change. Now I realize that this is not man, this is the leader who had no title. Now let's modify this. This is the put request and the object we want to modify. That's fine. Let's send. And see, we got the updated object, the leader who had no title. It was the man who had no title, now it is leader who had no title. If you want to still confirm, let's say section updated. That's fine. Let's check. We got the section updated. Let's check in the database as well if we got the updates. It should be now the leader who had no title. Okay, we have updated the things successfully. That's great. Now let's continue with the delete as well. We want to delete book. We'll delete the book as well based on ID. We just have to write router.delete because this is a delete request, and we have to delete with help of our ID. Let's name it book ID. This will be also a sync method. This will take request response objects, and we'll do, let's say, const book, which will be equal to await book dot find by ID and remove. This is the method, and you just have to pass the ID. That is all you need to do. Request dot params dot book ID. We check here. Okay, let's check here. We got the book. If we do not got the book, we'll say response dot status of 404 and send book with ID not found. Let's say, or if we get, we'll directly send the deleted book, which will be returned to us. Okay, let's say, let's test this if delete request works. I'll copy this request. I'll go here and add plus, and from the drop down I'll click on delete request. I'll enter the URL. Let's hit enter now. We don't need to send any body. That's fine. That got deleted because we got 200 OK and we got the same object. And to check that if it got deleted from the database, let's go to the database and check if there is anything with this. Okay, let's refresh this, wait for it to load. Okay, come on. Okay, we have two books now. The leader who has no title got deleted. That's fine. So we have completed all of the REST APIs. Probably we have covered post, put, get and delete. Okay, let's add the book back so that we get the 3 books back. The man who had no title. Okay, we'll go to the leader. Okay, we have to make a put request now. Let's see if our post request is working. Okay, it got added. Let's check. We got back 3 books. So this is how we create REST APIs in Node.js, Mongoose and Express. So we'll do something else now. We'll focus on how to log your errors. Basically, till now we were doing just console logs and doing some stuff. So we'll use a package called Winston to log our error messages properly. So next up is your Winston setup. So let's continue with the Winston setup. Okay, let's just now quickly install our packages. So if we are going to use Winston, okay, let's install the Winston package. It's WINSTON. Till then it gets installed. Let us move to our index.js file. We'll require this package. We'll say const Winston, which is equal to require Winston. Okay, so we have to create a custom logger using Winston. So Winston is a package that will help us log our messages onto the console or even into a separate file. So I'll show you how to do that. So for that I have opened up the documentation for Winston. I'll follow this. To create a logger, we'll do something like this. Let us just copy this from here. I'll go here and paste this here. I'll keep this level as info. So there are basically different levels of logging. There is info, there is error, and there is some other warning and other stuff as well. You can check that in the documentation. So basically transports are the ways to log. Number one, we are saying here is I want to log something to the console, and number two I'm saying is I want to log something in the file. But I'll modify this. I'll say my file name will be error.log, and I want to log in this file only if it is an error. So I can say if the level is error, then and only then this will log into my file. Otherwise I will log into my console, right? That is fine. Now I also want to log my messages and show the colors, because different logging levels in Winston have different colors. So I do want those colors. So to do that, what I will do is I'll set up this winston.transports.console. So I would say format, which will be equal to winston.format.combine. It will be a here and function. It will take winston.format.color. It will take colorize, and let's say all to true. So this will log my messages in particular colors. Okay, that is fine for now. So let's check this. Let us save this. Now to check this, what we have to do is, instead of saying console.log, what I will say here is I will say logger.log. In the first argument I have to pass the level of logging. I will say info, and I will say connected to Mongodb, say Atlas. Let's save this and let's see if we can get this. See, we got this message pretty much differently than console.log. So we got the level of info and message connected to Mongodb Atlas. And if you have noticed, we have also created one error file as well here, which says error.log. But if you go here, this will be empty for now. Why? Because we have mentioned you have to log in the error file only when the level is error. So we'll see that as well. So this is done. This is logger.log. Let us change now this logger.log. We will say this will be a type. This will be a level of error, of course. And let's just log the entire error. I don't want to log something wrong happened. We log the entire error. Okay, to see this we have to throw a new error, so just let's empty this. This will obviously go into the catch block because logger.log expects 2 arguments, so it will automatically come in catch block and we'll see a logger error. Let's save this and check. See, we got the level of error. Now if you go to our error.log file, you will see that here as well. In fact, we should do, I guess, error.message, I guess. Let's check if that throws an error properly. Let's see. Okay, we got the message. Level of error and message cannot create property, symbol, level, on string, and whatever. If you go here, you will see the previous as well and the log right now added to it. So this is pretty awesome, right? Because you want to have a file of your error logs. right? Okay, we got this one correctly. We saw the error log, we saw the info log. Let's just undo this now. Let's add info here so that we can get this correct again. Okay, now we should be connected to this successfully. So there is one more method, one more level of things we can add. We can also add something to handle exceptions, because your application can throw exceptions, so you want to log that as well. So before that, let's just do this as well. Let us say this is info, and I cannot have a third argument, so I have to fit in my port here. So I'll make this a template string. So this is a tilde which will be right next to your one key. So I'll say dollar, and I'll say my port number. Okay, let's see. Okay, we got logger.info message, server started port 300. So in case you are wondering where are the colors, let's say log want to have a warning. So this is in the yellow color. We can also do something like this, I guess. Let's check. We can directly do log.warning, and we don't need to pass this. Let's check. Yes, so we can also do something like this. Let's convert this into info. We don't need to be doing two arguments. Okay, fine. Logger dot maybe error, correct. So this will be good. This is reducing our code. That's good. Okay, let's do it info again. Okay, fine. Now let us do something to handle our exceptions. So I'll go back to the documentation. I have found something for the exception handling. So we have added the transports, and to handle the exceptions, we'll add one more thing called exception handlers. So let's go here, and after the transports array, add a comma and add this file here, exception handlers. So this is the path to exceptions.log file. I'll just have a root path for now. I'll do exceptions.log. When you save this, you will see here we got another file created which says exceptions.log. And now whenever our application throws any exception, that will be logged into this file automatically. So how to check that now? We'll throw an exception by ourselves to check this if this is working. Let's say throw new error and save this file. Our app got crashed and we don't know the reason. And if you go to exceptions.log file, you will see the reason. It is an error, level of error, message, uncaught exception, and it is a long error, object, anonymous, and what else you require. So this will log everything you need here if any exception occurs. So that's great, right? Okay, let's move back. This is how we can log errors. We can also handle anything else. If you want to have different files for different things, or you want to handle anything else, it can be anything. It can be something in your routes as well. You can set up an entire middleware for your logging. That's fun. But for now, we have a very basic application, so we'll not set up an entire middleware for that. I think this setup is good for us. Okay, now we are done this. Let's just push everything to Git. Let's say edit to log added. Okay, I'm not typing it out. Added Winston logger to handle errors. Okay, let's push everything to master. That will be fine. I think we are pretty much done now. We'll now move ahead and deploy our APIs to Heroku. We'll see how this process works, and so that we can access our APIs from anywhere. Let me also show you, because till now I have not shown you this, that we can also access this from our browser. So we are running on which port? 3000, and we have books. So if I can go here, I'll say localhost 3000/books. Okay, I have a different route, I guess. I have API slash something, right? Let me check that. I have API/books. I will write /API/books. Okay, am I getting anything? Okay, we have got the list of books here. So only the get routes we can get from browser, because for the post routes we have to post something to the server. We don't have any facility or any application set up for posting, or we don't have any form. So that's why we were using Postman for that. We'll still use Postman to check our post routes when we deploy the application, but the get routes we can get them from browser as well. Okay, let's now go ahead and deploy this to Heroku. So okay, let's now go and deploy this. Make sure you have an account on Heroku. If you don't have an account on Heroku, just go to the heroku.com, just create one account, just log into that account also. Just create one account for now. That will be fine. We just need one Heroku account. After that, we have to install a Heroku CLI. So make sure you are pushing everything to GitHub, because we'll be using GitHub. Heroku is connected to GitHub, so we'll be directly using our repository to host this. So make sure everything is pushed to a GitHub repository. And the next step is installing the Heroku CLI. So I'll search for Heroku CLI. I'll add this in the description as well. So go to Heroku CLI and download Heroku CLI. What I'll do is I'll go to the download page for Heroku CLI. If you just type Heroku CLI download into Google, it will show you the page. Just go to this page, and there will be download options for your particular operating system. This is for Mac OS and Ubuntu and Windows. I'll go ahead and download a 64-bit installer for my PC. I have already installed, I guess, but let's see. Let me install it once again. Okay, let's do yes. Let's do next, and we'll select the default setup. That will be fine for us. Let it download. It will take some time. Let me pause the video till then, so that you don't watch and see me doing this stuff. Okay, our installation is complete. I'll just do close, and that is it. That is all I need to do for my installation. Even you can use, if you don't want to use this Heroku CLI, you can directly create a new project here and just link it to your GitHub repo. It will automatically publish that. But we'll be using Heroku CLI, because I want you to know Heroku CLI, how to do it with Heroku CLI. That's fine. You can do it both ways. So after we have installed Heroku CLI, let's go and I will go to our project directory. What we'll do is I'll type a command called Heroku Login. So press any key as it says. Just wait for it. It will pop up a login window for us. So we'll log into the Heroku. So we are logged in to the Heroku. It will show me the email ID. So after logging in, okay, this is waiting for login. Okay, after it finishes login, we will just create one project on Heroku with a command. Let's just wait for it to finish. Why is it taking so much time? Oh, I don't know. Okay, now we are done logging in. So let's now type another command called Heroku Create. Okay, now before that, actually we have to do one more thing. So let me show you. Okay, let us do Heroku Create and wait for it. It will create a unique URL for you. After that, we have to do git push Heroku master. What this command will do is this will push your master branch to the Heroku project. We'll just press enter. Okay, no such app shouldn't reach. Okay, okay, actually I deployed it before, so that's why it's throwing me an error. Let me figure out. So okay, we'll push everything to Heroku. The error I faced was because due to the existing repository I earlier also had pushed to Heroku, so that is why I was facing this error. So you don't need to worry, you won't face this error. You just need to type this command git push Heroku master and press enter. Let's see now if this works. Okay, it is building this. Let us wait for it to resolve. It will install all the dependencies that are mentioned in our package.json file, and it will give us a URL. So our build is succeeded and it is launching our app, and it has given us a URL. So if we go to the URL and paste it here, you will see an error. This will not work. You will see an application error. So to find out, and anyway, if you just reload it here, you will see the list of your app. The Thorning Intellect was the app I created. I'll go to this to check the logs, what is happening. Go here and see view logs. Let's wait for it to refresh. See, we have an error, npm error, you have missing script start. So what is happening here is your Heroku is finding a start script, which it is not finding. Heroku works in two ways. It will either work with a proc file or it will find a start script in your package.json file. But in our package.json file, if you go to your package.json file, there is no start script. So let's just add a start script. Let's add a start script, start, and we'll write node index.js. We don't need node 1 now because we are not in development. Let's save this. Let's push this to Git first because we have made changes. Let's see, edit start script. Let's push this to master so that our master branch gets updated with the latest changes. So as soon as it's done, now we'll again go and push master branch to Heroku. Let's wait for this to complete. We'll see if this works now. So this will take some time. Let's wait for it to finish. Build is succeeded. It is almost done. Okay, we have released the v4. Let's go to this again. Let's see if we face this error again. Okay, we are facing the error again. Let me check. Let's go to the logs again. Let's see. It is saying failed at REST API start script. Okay, so we are getting here a 503 error. So we have definitely missed something in our code. So if you get a 503 error, sometimes you might have added a default port here. If you go to your index file and see, because we have dynamically added the port, so there's no issue. But if you directly say 3000 port, it will definitely throw you an error because it is the job of Heroku to allocate you a port dynamically. So that's why we are using process.env.port. Now what exactly the error we are facing here is, if you see here, how are we connecting to Mongodb Atlas? We are using process.env.mongo URL, but Heroku does not know it. So there should be some way to tell Heroku that we are using this process or .env.mongo URL environment variable. So what we will do is just go here. We have our environment variable specified here. which is equal to mongo underscore URL. Just copy that URL, whole URL, copy that whole URL, come here, go to settings, let it open, scroll down, you will see something like a reveal config values. Click on this, you will see a key value pair. Add a key of mongo underscore URL. Make sure this key is same as this key, mongo underscore URL, because we are accessing it via process env.mongo underscore URL, and paste that URL here and click on add. Okay, this got added. Now let's check it again. If we get an error again, see, we did not got an error. It says cannot get slash, which obviously is true. We have not done anything for slash route. We'll go to API slash books and press enter. See, we got the list of books we have on a deployed URL. Okay, we have got the books. That's good. Now if you go to our Postman, let's check through our Postman as well if we are getting this. I've already made a request. Let's send it again. We are getting all the list of authors. Let's make a post request as well to check if we can add a book as well. We'll go to body. I'll just copy this from somewhere here. Where is it? So I'll just copy this object and we'll check if we can. Let's go to body, click on raw, choose JSON from here and paste it. Let's say book name. I don't have any book name in mind. Let's just say random. Let's say random name. Let's say random author. Let's keep it as is. Let's check first if we are getting the errors. Let's pause this. We are getting the error. Book name must be at least 3 characters, right? So we have posted, right? Let's post a book now. We have posted a new book, and if we do the get request again, we should get this book as well. Now in the list of books, we have Wings of Fire, Mongoose, Oldest Ferrari, the 3rd book, and another book which is a random name fiction. This is stored in your Mongodb database. Now go on and test your put and delete routes as well. Okay, let's just do it here. Let's just delete the book we just created. Just copy this ID. Copy this ID. Let's create another route, or let's just do it here only. Let's do delete and add a slash and add your ID. Let's send this. Okay, this got deleted. To check, what we'll do a get request to all the books, and we'll see we'll got only 3 books. We can also do the put route. Let's just quickly do that as well, so that we test all our 4 routes. So let's do a put. Go to body. Let's update. Let's just first add 1 book and just update. We'll just update that. Let's just post it. We'll add 1 book, random name. Now we'll go to the put route and update this. Let's say random name updated, random author updated. Instead of 34, let's say 38. That's fine. Let's just try this route as well and send. Okay, it's saying not found. Okay, we have not mentioned the ID. We have to paste the ID of this book. Okay, this is getting too long, I know, but let's just check it, so that you have to get the ID first. Okay, let's copy this ID, change to put and slash this ID, and we are passing the body. Let's send this now. Okay, we got a status of 200. Okay, this was updated. Let's check by doing a get route again, and we have successfully updated the book. So we have covered all the four things. We have done a get API, post API, and a put API, and a delete API as well. And we have successfully hosted our application on Heroku. And you have a unique URL for your application. Now, what are the next steps to it? You can definitely create a front end for it and use this API endpoint to show your books, list of books, and create a form to post a new book, create a form to update your book. You can delete your book. You can do that. Okay, that's it for this course. If you have any questions regarding this, and or if you face any errors, just let me know in the comment section. I'll definitely try to help you all with the errors. You might face an error in deployment or in something else, or you don't understand any code. So let me know in the comment section. I'll definitely try to help you. So that's it. That is it for this course. If you liked this video series, please share it with your friends and let me know the review of this course, or the next things we should cover in Node or in some other topics. We'll definitely continue with JavaScript, but if you want me to cover the React or React Native part as well, we'll definitely start with that as well. But the next thing I'm thinking with Node is to set up an authentication flow with probably Passport.js or with JWT authentication. But definitely let me know in the comments. Till then, thank you so much.